New mom plotting petty revenge after sister-in-law refuses to let her hold baby. Is she going too far? Whipped for telling someone they can't hold my baby because they aren't the real aunt? Buckle up. This is a long one. My husband's sister-in-law, we will call her Julie, 29F, is kind of fake. She will woo you in person but has absolutely no interest in responding to texts, calls, or Marco Polos. It took me a couple years to realize she didn't like me. The straw on the camel's back for me, after giving so many chances because after all, I could be reading the situation wrong, was when she didn't respond to my text about helping me with a diet to hopefully improve my fertility. We had been trying for 2 years at this point, and out of desperation, I asked her for help, because she recently went vegan. And I even told her why I was asking for help. She said she'd be in town that weekend, and we would schedule some time to chat. She lived 2 hours away. I was grateful and excited, hoping this would be the answer. Saturday came and went with no word. That's fine. Things get busy, I understand. So that night I texted and asked her what she thought would be a good time for the next day, and that I was super flexible and didn't have plans. She didn't respond. At this point I realized how fake and self-centered she was. Again, this is not a singular event, that it was all a show. She had no intention of helping me. I mean, it didn't need to be in person. It could have just as easily been done over a call, or even text. But no, it had to be a show of grace, with no follow-up. My husband's parents held a dinner that night that I didn't go to, and Julie said to my husband, "Oh, I will call her, Opie, on my way home." Again, no call came. Fast forward a couple years, and my husband and I have failed a couple rounds of IVF, and Julie had a baby that was about 3 to 4 months old. We hadn't seen the baby yet because of sickness, but finally a party came along, and we were feeling well enough to join. Julie offered to let me hold the baby, but her sister Victoria, 32F, jumped in and said, "No, I will hold her. I'm her real aunt." I mean, WTF? Apparently marrying into the family doesn't count. Julie said nothing and handed the baby to Victoria. To this day, the baby is now 3. I have not held her. Well, I had twins recently. IVF finally worked. And there is a petty part of me that wants to pull this same thing on Julie. Give the babies to my sisters and say that they're the real aunts. Would I be the a-hole? Update. I think some of you missed, the diet is one example. There are literally dozens of things like this that just... Ugh. Yeah, I won't get into details. I know she doesn't owe me anything, but to my face she would act like my friend, so I asked a friend for help. There is nothing wrong with being upset when I get blown off after making myself vulnerable. A woman asking for diet help for fertility issues, definitely vulnerable. Yes, I researched. Yes, I met with specialists. Nutritional coaching cost more than I could spend, so I just wanted pointers and recipes. I didn't ask her to meal plan for me. I wanted to know how she started and what tools she found to be useful. Also, my twins are 6 months old now. I'm not spending every waking moment thinking about this. I don't even have time to wash my hair. I just get triggered by something, and yes, it bothers me that Victoria said that, and Julie let it happen and didn't try to bolster me. It's a wound. Honestly, I have no intention of saying it. There is just part of me that wants to be satisfied in not allowing myself to be a doormat. Hearing everyone's sides is actually helping me heal. Knowing there are people validating my feelings helps. Knowing that I should take the high road helps keep me strong. I'm just tired of taking these things. Also, just venting anonymously heals, too. I was too busy taking care of myself with IVF to do much healing, so I'm doing that now. Healing old wounds by venting and exploring sides. Also, for those interested, she had a 4th baby a few months before my twins. This time, however, Julie had PPD for the first time ever. I've dealt with depression and anxiety since I was 7 to 8 years old, and I'm the only person in my husband's family who has dealt with it. So I stood up for her when she said hurtful things to my mother-in-law. I reached out to help with my experience in what helps me process my overwhelming loneliness. It is more than I ever got from her, and I'm proud of myself for that, to put my injuries aside and help those who have hurt me on numerous occasions. AITA for kicking my pregnant sister out of my apartment. Hello, I live in an apartment with my grandmother. A week ago, I got home from work to find my grandmother in her room resting and my sister and her 1-year-old son in my living room. She is also 8 months pregnant. This is normal and happens often. I usually keep to myself, but I do enjoy their company when they are there. However, every time I come home to find them in my apartment, the place is a mess. This time a couch and dining chairs are moved. There is food, dominoes, kitchen pans, and pillows on the floor. I have to step over stuff to walk towards my room. Things originally placed on the floor are moved on top of the dining table and counters. As someone who has issues with change and OCD, it causes me stress and discomfort. I would like things to remain how they were placed as I left them before work. I was going to let it be and went a shower. Once done, I went and joined my sister on the couch to spend time with my nephew. The convo switched to the issue. She said it wasn't a mess, only moves things to block him, and she always cleans it up before she leaves. I said it is not her apartment to rearrange, and that it's her job/the father's job to keep him from stuff he shouldn't touch. She said all I want to do is trap him/restrain him down and not let him be a 1-year-old curious boy. I disagreed and said we should not have to move anything when they come over. It's not their space to make perfect for them. This argument got pretty heated as conflict resolution is not in our genetics. She at one point told me to get out, and I said I live here. You don't, so you should leave. This led to my grandmother coming out of her room in perfect timing for my sister to start ranting about how I would be a terrible mother, that as soon as her ride arrives, she would be gone, and she isn't ever coming back. I said that's her choice, that I wasn't kicking her out permanently, and I just wanted the apartment to remain how I set it up. I know she can't actually leave since she is waiting on a ride. My grandmother gets upset because her coming over here is the only way she can see her and the baby since my grandmother is disabled. I feel I should have a fair say in what happens at the apartment, whether I pay rent or not, since we both signed the lease, and I help her with other things than just finances. Unfortunately, I knew she would take my sister's side since she is her favorite, and even though we had a private discussion a few nights prior where she did agree with me. My sister begins cleaning up the area. I just walk to my room and close the door. Not too long after, the boyfriend arrives to pick them up. I hear through my door my sister saying again she isn't coming back, that I said she is a bad mother and he is a bad father, which didn't happen, and some other insults. They gathered their things, said goodbye to my grandmother, and left. So am I the asshole? AITA for not proposing to my girlfriend and just playing house. I, 26M, have been with my girlfriend, 26F, since we were 16. We've grown up together, went to college together, moved in together, and built a life that honestly feels good. We both have solid jobs, split everything evenly, and we even got a dog last year. Neither of us wants to get married. It's not some deep anti-marriage stance or anything, we're just happy the way things are. Last weekend, we went to her parents' place for dinner. Things were normal. Her mom was chatting with her about work. Her dad and I were watching whatever game was on. After dinner, her dad asked me to help him grab something from the garage. Once we got in there, he shut the door and got serious. He said something like, "Look, you've been with my daughter for 10 years now. What's the plan here? You guys aren't kids anymore. You're just playing house at this point." I was caught completely off guard. I stammered something like, "We're happy where we are," but he shook his head and said, "It's time to step up. If you love her, and I think you do, make it official. Otherwise, what are you doing?" I didn't really know what to say. I respect the guy, but the whole thing rubbed me the wrong way. It felt like he was implying I'm wasting her time or stringing her along, which isn't true. I love her, and I always figured we'd get married. But I wanted it to be something we decided together, when it felt right, not because her dad cornered me about it. I didn't tell her about the conversation. It didn't feel worth bringing up since I didn't want to make things awkward between her and her dad. But now the whole thing's in my head. It's like I can't stop thinking about whether I'm doing something wrong by not proposing yet, even though we've never talked about a timeline. Am I the asshole for not proposing after her dad called me out? Or for not telling her about the conversation? AITA for treating my cousin's stepdaughter differently? I was raised in a family-oriented household, so I grew up close with my cousins and other extended family members my age. After the following years, we grew, had our own lives, but the bond was still the same, if not stronger. Some of these members settled down and had a family of their own. While I am close with their kids, having my own I feel is not for me. I don't think that I want to have that responsibility, or at least not yet. Since I am single, have a low-maintenance lifestyle, child-free, have a stable job, some passive income, and extra money, I try my best to share my blessings to everyone, including to the younger generations of the family. Fast forward to last weekend, we celebrated my grandmother's birthday, so it was kinda a big deal, and nearly every family member's gonna be there. With that in mind, I prepped some goodie bags filled with chocolate, candy, and some cookies. I also baked some extra just in case more kids attended the reunion than planned, family friends, as a separate set of goodie bags, which includes 3 assorted cookies. After the day ended, I handed every kid a goodie bag to take back home. Everyone was happy and appreciative with the gift, so I thought. My cousin's stepdaughter, 10, approached me complaining that why is her goodie bag smaller than her younger sister. Luckily, there were 2 extra cookie bags, but she complained that she wanted chocolate and candies too like everyone. But I said if she had more cookies than anyone with 12, and if she wants she can trade some of her cookies with her sister or ask to share. She said she didn't want to and said since she's older she deserves the extra cookies as well as the other goodies. I said and couldn't do that, and I promised her that I would give her some next time. She started crying and my cousin, her stepdad, came to try to quell her. I explained the situation and apologized. He understood and took the kid away as well as the extra packs of cookies I planned to give her. That evening, my cousin's wife called me and told me that I was Dick and accused me of mistreating her daughter just because we aren't blood related, and said that wasn't the only time I treated her differently. Called me some profanities, cursed me, and hanged up before I can speak for myself. Admittedly, I do treat her differently. Initially, yes, it was because we weren't related, but after a few years it was because of her attitude and personality. She's super spoiled, entitled, rowdy, nosy, and just plainly misbehaved. But what happened on Grandma's birthday was an honest mistake. With her personality, had I known my cousin planned to bring her, which he normally doesn't do, I would have given exactly like her sisters and the other kids to avoid the drama. So am I the asshole? Ada for not telling my grandmother her name was taken off my house. I, 27F, decided when I was 21 I wanted to find a house. I looked around at empty houses in my area and found one I fell in love with. It was a major fixer-upper, and I'm still working on some cosmetic details with it. I had just moved here not even a year before with my grandmother and her new husband, and they were constantly threatening to kick me out if I didn't basically hand them my entire check every week or wanted me home by 8 p.m. no matter what, and I was expected to do all the cooking and cleaning for them and her husband's daughter that is over twice my age. After I found the house I wanted, I went to the assessor's office to get the information on who owned it, and since my grandmother knew way more people than I did, I asked her if she knew the guy. Well, turns out it was her boss. I asked for his number, and she refused to give it to me, or even go with me to talk to him, said she'd do it for me and get it handled for me to buy it. Well, at the time I had no idea how she got him to sell the house, and was told by her the house was being sold under both of our names, as apparently he didn't trust a 21-year-old to actually pay, I guess. Still all according to her. Then a month later he brought by a contract for us to sign, and I was again under the impression the house was mine, and she was just a co-signer for insurance on the purchase in case I couldn't handle it. Well, she ended up moving a couple months after we signed the contract and left out of state. She was supposed to give me half the house payment to help me pay it off. I never asked. She offered, and was supposed to send her half directly to him. After about 8 months of her being gone, the guy came to my door telling me I was behind on the house by about 3 months because she never sent him the money each month, and I could either pay him by the end of week or move out. He said he tried to call her multiple times over and over, week after week, month after month, and she just wouldn't answer him. Naturally, I got pretty pissed off that I'd lose everything I'd been working all year for, and I had a talk with him. Come to find out, she got me the house by telling him it was for her, and I would just be living with her. She told him she and her husband were divorcing, and she needed a place to live so that she didn't have to leave and move back to our home state. Which obviously was lies, all of it, as she left right after signing the contract. The guy and I came to the conclusion that according to the contract she and I signed that put the purchase of the house to her, had a clause in it that the contract would be voided if she left the state for more than 7 consecutive days. We ended up working it out to keep 50% of my payments I had already paid towards the house, and start me under a new contract with him alone. It's been about a year since then, and I've made all my payments, and I'm almost finished paying the house off, as I've paid 2 to 3 payments each month to dwindle the total down quickly. The issue I'm having is the guy wants me to tell my grandmother what's going on before she gets up here to visit at the end of April, and I really don't want to. My grandmother is very controlling and a major narcissist with bipolar disorder. She has always been wishy-washy, and 1 second is so supportive and the next does any and everything in her power to keep you down and helpless. I feel like she did all this on purpose, knowing I'd pay and be responsible, and she could come after the house was paid and snake it out from under me and use it to run me like she did me living at her and her husband's house for a year. My mother and a few others in the family agree with me that telling her isn't the best idea before I have it paid off, even though legally she can't do anything she left, and that resulted in her contract being voided. She also made a deal with me that when she came this summer, she'd help me get the electrical redone as it severely needs it. I'm just not sure if telling her isn't a good idea, as the little bit she did pay into it, she could try to sue me for possibly, but I may be the asshole for taking my house back after she lied, and throwing her under the bus refusing to pay under her name anymore. Edit. Thank you all so much. I've been battling my morals on this for a while now, and with a month until D-Day, day she arrives in town cause villain arc totally great dash comma. Note the sarcasm. I now realize I really have no reason to feel like I'm the asshole or have done anything wrong. She did in fact make a commitment and did not hold up her end of the deal. I stepped up and did what I had to for myself and my family, and I shouldn't have to apologize for that. I don't think I'm going to say anything until she arrives, and even then probably won't unless she explicitly asks. I do love how everyone has the same ideas just based off of a small peek into her personality about having the cameras and locks changed, which I did a while ago for the same fears it seems you all have. It makes me realize I'm not so crazy in how I'm handling this, and maybe I need to just chill out and stop stressing out so much. Legally, there is nothing she can do to me, but I do plan on taking someone down below's advice and saving up the $4,000 to pay her back that she paid into it in the first place. I know it's not my job to give her money she lost out on back, but I feel like for my own sanity, I'd feel better knowing she couldn't say I took her house or her money. I'm currently looking to real estate lawyers just to be certain everything is good to go with my contract with the guy I'm buying from, even though I'm 97% sure it's all good anyway. I now have a small sliver of doubt thanks to everyone on if I'll even get my house in the end. Grinning face with sweat. I'm glad everyone been so forthcoming in the issues I could be facing with my grandmother, as well as the seller, and I intend to have all my facts and ducks in a row before doing anything farther with the house aside from living in it until it's paid and signed over. AITA for favoring my daughter over my stepson? I truly think I'm not in the wrong here, but since so many people think I am, I came here to look for some neutral perspective. So I, 34F, had my daughter Olivia, 17F, with my then boyfriend Martin, 34M, when we were 17. We had finished high school just a couple of months prior, and we decided to keep the baby against our family's wishes. We worked and studied a career at the same time, and we managed to raise Olivia, and she never lacked a food, but she lacked many times things she would see her classmates get. Martin and I eventually broke up, but we remained friends and have maintained a good co-parenting relationship ever since. Now, I eventually graduated, got a great job, was able to buy my own house, and married my husband Caleb, 38M, 4 years ago after dating for 3. He was divorced, and he has a son, Ian, 15M, from his previous marriage, with whom I don't have a good relationship. Not because we fight or something, but because we rarely see each other. He spends only some days of the week, and I work many hours. The rest of the time, I use it mostly to spend it with my daughter, my husband, or my friends. From the beginning, I made clear that Olivia would always be my first priority, no matter what. And he said the same about his kid. Olivia and my husband have a cordial relationship, but they never got too close. My daughter is pretty reserved, so it's only normal for them to not be so close. Now, when Olivia was 12, Martin and I decided to save money on an account to buy our daughter an apartment. It's almost impossible to own an apartment or a house these days at a young age, especially in Latin America, so we wanted her to have a secured place since we had the money. But since she was always someone stubborn and proud, we had this idea of buying a pretty big apartment, but that was completely destroyed, that needed a huge renovation and was completely empty, and the apartment is in Close City. We bought it when she was 14, and we told her the apartment was on her name and she could get access to it once she started university, but we told her she would have to work to pay for the renovation and the furniture. She was more than happy with this and started to work shortly after. She gathered a lot of money, and I arranged for the renovations while she was on her last year of secondary school. She also bought the furniture, and the apartment ended up really nice. She left at the beginning of the month to start university. Now, my husband really liked this. He said he wanted to do the same with his son, but he wanted to buy him an apartment in good conditions and all the furniture. He said he had already spoken to his ex and her husband, and they had agreed on contribute. Caleb asked me to put some money on their savings, but I told him I couldn't, and I give him my reasons. Basically, my mom is sick with cancer, and I'm the only one of my siblings who can actually afford to pay her treatments. Not only that, Martin and I have decided to pay for all of Olivia's services and give her money every month. We want her to not only focus mainly on university, but to be able to make friends and adapt to her new life in a big city. Now, Caleb was pretty angry with me. He told me it was not fair for me to not contribute, since I'm Ian's stepmother and need to step up, and perhaps I should let Olivia get a job since she's about to turn 18. I got pretty angry at this and told him only Martin and I will decide how to raise Olivia and what to give her, not him, and I reminded him that I always told him that my daughter was first. I told him he was delusional if he thought I would let my daughter alone when she's not even a legal adult just so he can buy an apartment to his son. No matter what, she will always be first, and that's how things are supposed to be, and I offered to help him in the future to buy the furniture or to pay the bills, but that at the time, I can't help him. He told me I was favoring my daughter, then left and hasn't spoken to me ever since, and I refuse to apologize when I believe I haven't done anything wrong. Now, I know my husband doesn't make much money. I make much more than him, and I know that his ex and her husband doesn't make much either, so if I don't help, they will never be able to buy an apartment for him. But right now, I have no other choice. Some of my friends told me that once I get married with a person with a kid, I'm also taking responsibility for the kid, and I should give him the same treatment I give to my daughter. Honestly, I think this is bullshit. Ian has a mother and has a father, and I don't think he ever expected me to be a parental figure to him and to treat him with the same love than my daughter. I think that kind of things can't be forced. It should happen naturally, and since we've barely spent any time together, that hasn't happened. Plus, I just could never love my stepson as much as I love my daughter. I could never treat him equally. My girl will just always come first than anything. I care for my stepson, but he just isn't my kid. Also, I feel like it's pretty unfair because he doesn't treat my daughter as he treats his son, and I don't expect him to. Anyway, Ida,